Welcome, one and all, throughout time and space, for this episode of Weebs on the Weekends, the podcast where we give a retrospective look on an anime that premiered 10 years ago or more and see if they meet the standards of modern day anime. Today's episode will be reviewing the 1995 anime of Gundam Wing for its 30th anniversary. My name is Sam Martinez. I'm a part time Weeb, full time automail mechanic, and today's special guest is no stranger to the podcast here at Weebs at the Weekends. We've used them several times before with dark fantasies such as Fate Zero and Berserk, and now he wants to flex his know-how on the trauma of childhood soldiers and giant robots. So today we have none other than Jarrod. Thank you for being with us again today here at this present time, Jarrod. I feel like that was
Well, I'm glad I can time travel to meet you here. Uh, I can't wait to get into this one. I've always been a Mobile Suit Gundam Wing junkie and avid Toonami watcher, so I'm happy to get into it.
Yes. I think one thing that we wanted to, or one thing that we were trying to do like this year is like with some of our anime is touch a little bit on some of the animes that made big splashes here. Mainly because of Toonami, or like we're big blockbusters on Toonami. And we've done a Gundam episode before, but for some reason it seems like Gundam Wing just has like a very special place in the heart and minds of the American populace. Yeah, so I was just wondering, it's like you mentioned that you were a big Gundam Wing head. What how would you say you were exposed to this anime? And are you familiar with any of the other Gundam franchises?
First, let me take you back to 1995, right? Or even 1997 when it was still
Ooh.
premiering or still going on in Toonami, right? Take you back. You're running home from school with your backpack. Steve Harvey still had hair, and you're hoping that your parents are still together, right? You come home, you see a bald robot with a fat belly, and he's telling you, you're going to watch Gundam Wing. Gundam Wing, 1995, 96. Cue the jazz music. Mecha, military drama, and political thriller. 49 TV episodes long, 3 OVAs, and who can forget Endless Waltz for all of what made Gundam so amazing. Gundam was it was based in the distant future. Humanity has been colonizing space, building massive like space colonies. The Earth Sphere Alliance, if you guys have heard of that one, uses like their military force to keep the colonies under control. And in response, you have some teenagers piloting some suits that can only be made in space. And they're the thing that's going to change this timeline, Mobile Suit Gundams. And this is to fight for their independence, really, in this story. Child soldiers sent to fight for their independence, nothing new, but something that we are trying to explore in a very clunky way. So, uh, that's my introduction to how I saw the season. I don't know how you might have been introduced to the series.
Damn, dude. We haven't even really gotten to the synopsis. Your synopsis was a whole lot better than what I have here. But no, like so that I would say that was a really good really good. For me, it's kind of weird because like I said, it's like in the 90s and like early 2000s, Toonami's getting big, and I'm watching like Cyborg 009, Dragon Ball Z, a little bit of Naruto, Bleach. I think Naruto was still in day, the daytime, like the after school special. It wasn't because I remember like or like with some Toonami, like there was like a Saturday evening block, and then there was I think it was either Mizumi or something like that, which was like Toonami Light, but like on the weekdays, like right after school. Do you remember any of that or no?
I remember some of
Yeah,
that, but I think Gundam was before Naruto was on the Toonami block.
yeah. And I'm just saying like that's my recollection because it's around that time where everybody and their mothers are like, "Oh, Gundam Wing's the best thing," and I guess because of like how hyped it was, I was off put by how everybody was just enthralled with it, and it was around the time like they started showing G Gundam too. And G Gundam came out prior than Gundam Wing, but as far as like when it was released here in the States, Gundam Wing was released first, and then G Gundam was released in at least like as far as what the internet says was released here in 2002. So I was following that a little bit, still getting my mecha fix, but so it seems like you were part of the people that was like that first wave of Gundam. Um, so I guess like, would you say that Gundam Wing was your first exposure to the Gundam franchise, or
So
were
I
you
will say
exposed to Gundam before that?
yes.
Yeah.
I was exposed to it. So the original Toonami block was 1999 to 2000, right?
Hmm.
And that's where, or at least when Gundam Wing aired. So it was a 4 o'clock Dragon Ball Z, 4:30 Tenchi Muyo, sometimes Outlaw Star.
Yeah.
5, we'd always have to have Sailor Moon. I mean, we had to do what we had to do. And then 5:30,
Yes.
we hit our goddamn Gundam, you know? And it's like, okay, we get off of that fresh, okay, guy whipping somebody with some roses, girl transforming like Power Rangers. And I'm like, all right, there's a cat here. And so, but just a little bit to break you down because you have to start out with something good. Dragon Ball Z, you have Tenchi Muyo, which, kind of like was that a harem fantasy? And then you have Sailor
Yeah.
Moon, which is, girl high school drama fantasy or power fantasy. And then you have Gundam Wing. You have to have a mecha in every one of these blocks. When Gundam Wing came over to the US, they actually designed it or sent it to the US based on having a design that they thought would catch the Western culture's eye. And it did with a with a unanimous sigh of, or I'd say shout of excitement, right? So as a kid watching Gundam Wing on Toonami, if you're like born in the 90s, early 90s, all you could think was action, 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 right? This giant robots battling each other. Sign me up. The show's on right after school, sandwiched between the shows we just kind of went over. It's
Hmm.
like that was the golden age for a lot of people in our general population. That we're speaking on at least. And then like it had the cool factor. Every Gundam was like unique and had like some kind of super weapon. You had the Wing Gundam with the gun that could one shot anything. You had Death Scythe who carries a Death Scythe. And each pilot was cool mostly in their own way. Some
They
relating to
were
like the
very
Blue Power
distinct
Ranger.
from they were distinct and unique from the others, so you can tell them apart in more ways than one.
Yes, and a lot of them were just so damn edgy, and that's what made them cool back then. Being edgy was a big thing back then. That's why you have a lot of characters that is like focuses on them, like Hiro and Wu Fei, right? Both
Hmm.
extremely edgy characters, and Zex as well. Trey's Trey's Kutronaut kinda not as edgy. He's like the rich edgy, you know,
I have
and the
money, so I don't
soundtrack.
have to try as hard.
Yeah, and the soundtrack, man, like that
Oh
Toonami
yeah, yeah.
voiceover they always played those same clips, whenever you're seeing the commercials, it's like Death Scythe going in, slicing somebody up, or jumping from the Endless Waltz clip when he had the wings, and, it made you feel like you were watching something where the people were older, at the time.
Oh yeah, no, like you said, like
Like
it was just a right amount of edge where it's like, yeah, I feel like I'm a big kid because it's like violence and political intrigue, but it's cool because it's like you said, it's done in a cool way with these characters being edgy. And right, going back to the topic at hand, and wanted to get a bit of an overview. Like I said, like your intro, wow, chef's kiss, amazing. Um, but uh, I kind of want you to give it again if you're able. um,
I don't mind.
and we can get a second take of your perfect synopsis, and then I'll give a little bit of the details on the uh on the studio and like where to find the show shortly afterward.
Okay. Um, in this intro that you're about to take, can you just cut and say cue the music and play the intro?
Play the intro. Click.
It's like, cue the music. Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, 1995 to 1996. Something that aired in Toonami from 1999 to 2000, when a lot of us were about 9, 10, anywhere, maybe 14. In the genre of mecha, military drama, and political thriller. There are 49 TV episodes, 3 OVAs, and who can forget Endless Waltz? It was based in the distant future. Humanity has colonized space, building massive space colonies. The Earth Sphere Alliance uses military force to keep the colonies under control. And in response, they sent 5 teenage pilots for the colonies and sent there to fight for Earth's freedom and their independence. Mobile Suit Gundams. Everybody knows Gundams. Strong enough to where they can't even be made on Earth and have to be made in space. The only show that follows their battles and entangles the relationships of all these political factions, Gundam Wing. Fight for peace.
Oh my goodness. Thank you again. I did not mean for you to do the heavy lifting, but I mean, came out good. I mean, you can't. I can't mess with perfection, right? If it works, don't fix it. And very much as you said, like it was aired in '95, and the studio who made this series is Sunrise, as they do all other Gundam franchises. And this is an anime original. There was no manga that came out at the time. And as you mentioned before, action, drama, sci-fi, mecha, military, and space. And this series is available for watching on Crunchyroll, Hulu, and Amazon Prime. I would say too that in doing a little bit of prep work for this, in case you wanted to have an idea on why uh, this series was as popular to uh, our age group that grew up with this, as popular as it was. One of the screenwriters, his name is Katsuyuki Sumizawa, was the big writer for this series in how it unfolded and how it developed. And he's also known for screenwriting a lot of the Dragon Ball Z series, and as well as Transformer Beast Wars, Sailor Moon, Yu Yu Hakusho, as well as Zoid Zero Century. So I would say like he was probably in the sauce or in his bag when he was writing this thing. He's like, I know what these kids like, and I'm going to give them every bit of it. So yeah, it's again, thank you for hopping on talking with me about this show, and I feel like we should get started. We're going to start with a little bit of some pre-spoiler talk, where we'll just go into like the first few episodes of the show, nothing too much. And just wanted to let everybody know, like, time codes are in the description. And without further ado, let's hop into space. Ooh. See a little bit of those Gundams flying to space. And I would say, Jarrod, what would you say, just going pure off of memory before having to go back and rewatch this series? What was your hot take? Or if you
When I,
can say that you had a hot take from pure nostalgia, what would it have been?
from pure nostalgia,
Yes.
I would say that I thought Gundam Wing was a very serious show
Okay.
because as a 10-year-old in the 90s, the show does take itself extremely seriously. They have a lot of
Hmm.
time spent with people like, trying to deliver monologues, etc. And it blew my mind that these people are talking at like such a high level. And it felt like as a kid, it's just supposed to be like this weighted speech that really means something. And I just was missing it, you know? But then I hear it now and it's like, no, it doesn't really deliver when it comes to that.
So I guess like growing up, you felt like you might have been taken seriously, not like they were trying to talk down to you or anything else like that, or bring the speech down. But like you said, like you felt like when they were talking, like because they took themselves so seriously that, oh, because the scene is so serious, what they're talking about, it must be serious. Was it something similar to that?
Yes, because I could just remember, everybody remembers or everybody has seen that clip. Cue the clip of Hiro Yui tearing up the invitation. Everyone's seen that clip. Not
Yes.
many people, I'm sure, remember why he says those things. And it's like it just doesn't, it seems like it's just being edgy just to be edgy. But back in the day, it felt like, oh, there had to be something behind this, you know?
It's like there's a
Um,
reason. It's like he's it's like this man Hiro Yuri. He seems like intentional. There has to be a reason behind this.
Yeah, like they're showing you like when you're a kid, you're just seeing the scenes as they play out. Like as this guy's typing on a laptop and he's getting access to this stuff and he's, doing all these things that like you can't do. And he just assume he's older. And then you assume on top of that that, this stuff he really knows something. And like when it shows these scenes of people just standing against the background delivering like a speech of a few words and just a long pause, you feel like it feels like you're supposed to think it's important. And
He was
oof.
using a pregnant pause like that. Not
Yeah.
not like William Shatner, but it's just like that pause to sort of draw you in.
Yeah. 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 And it just I thought that some of the when before rewatching it, I thought some of the characters would have had different personality types, and then when you reintroduce yourself to them, it's like, yeah, those personality types don't really hold up.
So like from what we mentioned before, like there was we have five different pilots, and from what I've seen, like it seems as though that the five different pilots, that Gundam Wing was influenced by G Gundam. Because of that, it seems like that was a big influence. Because G Gundam, you have the five main pilots, and now that you follow, and I would say that may lean a little bit into Power Rangers slash Super Sentai. Um, main of thought, because it's just funny because like as you were talking about it, it's like it made me think about like the intro for Power Rangers is like we need five teenagers with attitude to be able to take this mission, right? And these teenagers have the attitude, and that's sort of what I have there. And we did mention like how like they were unique. Oh, for me, I would say that's probably one of the strengths that Gundam Wing had as a show, whereas like it followed like the Power Ranger rules, but like it was still very serious and very Gundam about it. It's like you had these five different protagonists, different personalities, different power sets, quote unquote, and it we could talk a little bit about later, like whether or not like it was a executed well. That's something left to be desired, but like it's set up fairly well. What other strength would you say that this show had for it during the time that it came out and it aired?
Mm, I would say the biggest thing that it had going on was the mecha action appeal. In the like late 90s, early 2000s, mechas were all the rage. One, you could make them toys, and two, because you could do so many things, they're exploring technology. And we were at the, growing edge of that. Like, let's be real, the robots are what hooked us. Gundam Wing absolutely rocks when it comes to awesome mecha action.
Yeah.
Even, or maybe like awesome mecha action and like toy design and pilot design resellability is like whoa cool, it just screams cool. You have Wing Gundam, which can transform into like a jet mode. You have Death Scythe, which is literally, the like a Grim Reaper robot, and Heavy Arms, which let's be honest, he just has endless guns. And who doesn't want to just shoot and just, right? It's like the definition
Yes.
of spray and pray. So it's like when you can have those and like the animation, like while it relied a lot on repeated stock footage, do the same explosion, five, like being used five times is like a good way to explain that. It still delivers like a lot of hype moments. And those hand-drawn 90s action scenes have aged perfectly. Even now
Oh,
seeing
okay.
Gundam. Like, even
Yeah.
now seeing Gundam, like, the design like, the maybe not the animation, but the like, how it's hand drawn, it's when there's a Gundam slicing through a platoon of enemies, like, or suits of a like, on some kinda dramatic landing, it just looks so well, like, drawn. Now, like, back then, there wasn't as much computer generated imagery, so you had to be on point.
Oh yeah, no,
While some
like
of the
yeah.
characters may have looked ugly in some scenes, the
So long
Gundams
as the
always held up.
so long as the giant robots are okay, it's like what's going on with that guy's face? Like don't work, don't care. It's like giant robot. They get the priority. They get the money.
Hey, that's a 10-year-old's mind, though. A 10-year-old's mind. It's like, hey, you got like the thrill of 5 super robots tearing it up. That's pure joy right there.
Mhm.
And Gundam Wing knew how to tap into that like power fantasy. Like 5 teens, just like you said, kind of like the Power Rangers, that was also like more of a rage then. They even got a movie. And then you put them in like unstoppable mechs that can do way more than like live action. You have yourself an enormous hit. And that's what Toonami kind of found. And it did, like, the aesthetic lived up to the hype. But,
Oh yeah.
I'm just gonna say that.
That's fair. So no, that's I would say like they definitely did capitalize on everything and saw like what was being consumed in the market at the time. So like it was definitely they definitely did make a lot of good moves there. I would and you mentioned before that this was like your intro to the Gundam franchise. So, would you say that this was like looking back on it now, would you say that this was a good way for you to get introduced to Gundam series? Or do you think that another series would have been better?
As a kid, I think that this was a perfect series at the perfect time. It didn't have a lot of well thought out emotion, like, let's say, how they tried to do in Gundam Unicorn.
Yeah.
They didn't, like, explore new types or anything like that that was, like, too philosophical. They did try to capitalize on that whole, like, zombie philosophy thing because it is technically
Hmm.
in the same universe, but I don't think I don't think it kept me involved in the gun like, it really was a good introduction for me because as a kid, it was
Yeah.
all about design, and they delivered design. I'll give them that. And even, like, the edge lords, which were all popular at the time, kept me involved.
Okay, yeah. So, like you said, it's a perfect myriad of perfect circumstances. No, you could say that you were targeted.
I think so, and, it's fine. I'm not mad at it.
Oh my goodness. So with that said, would you think that this series because talking with like a lot of people about it, it's like it's just nostalgia and like because you're not the only one that was targeted. Like everybody was just like hit with this magic bolt and just rant and raves and it's the best thing. So would you consider this to be a staple for the Gundam franchise? Say, like, if you're going to get into Gundam and you need to give somebody a list of Gundam shows to watch, would this be a must see necessary to do?
I would say this would be a perfect show. Like, this was a perfect show for its time and its target audience. I wouldn't
Hmm.
suggest this to like a true teenager now. I would probably give this to the same age group that I was in, like 9 to 10-year-olds
Okay.
that want to get into gunpla,
Yeah.
like but, I think it's a staple of its time, not a staple of, the Gundam genre. I don't think it delivers the same kind of, messaging or story points that the, regular accepted Gundam universe, continuous timeline goes on. Um, like if I compare it to G Gundam or Gundam Unicorn or Gundam Blood Orphans, like this one doesn't really deliver on the typical message as well as the others. While it is good, like with its designs, there are plenty other Gundam series that have the same kind.
So, if anything, you would suggest this to somebody. who's maybe a completionist or is like, hey, you want to know what we thought was cool in the 90s? Here you go. That sort of thing.
Yeah, and then be like, let your kid watch it, and then let him tell you what he thinks.
Oh my goodness. So, no, that's really good. I would say, like, as you mentioned before, like the action sequences with all the big fights, they're done very, very well. I would say, in terms of like how well it's aged, right? And because like with me trying to suggest something to somebody, like especially something this old, like the animation has to be on point. Because I think you had mentioned Bebop. I have to look into it when uh, Bebop was released. But like Bebop was probably more consistent in its animation quality as opposed to this series. But no, like just want to say, like I do agree with you that like it is more of a product of its time, and like if you do suggest somebody to watch it, like it's probably good for like that younger demographic, right? Whereas somebody who's older, who's probably more used to say something like Demon Slayer or um not necessarily My Hero, but I guess like maybe Kaiju number 8, where it's like the story, like they don't have to worry about filler, right? Like it's all nice and titrated, so it's like you can get what you want without having to deal with the week to week basis sort of. But I would say like for what it was definitely enjoyable. Um for what it was supposed to do. It definitely did have a lot of potential threads. Like as you mentioned before, like the different factions and the different colonies. So like it definitely does set things up to be very interesting, but it doesn't necessarily like it does it just enough to make you feel like interesting things are happening, but they don't do deep dives in it to where they can flesh it out. But because they don't do that, they're not necessarily like bogged down with what you'll do with like politics and things like that. Because I think um another show like Log Horizon, where like they start dealing with like treaties, or not even Log Horizon, Spice and Wolf, where it's they get into like the nitty gritty regarding economics, right? Where it's like for me, like if I wasn't expecting it, I would feel like it's being bogged down, right? Whereas like that's not something that I necessarily want to watch. Whereas just comparing that to politic sort of things that they introduce, like they keep it just like surface level, where it's like, okay, this is happening because this. So at least like for its audience, like it does enough. Um, so that's at least like my thoughts on pre spoilers. Do you have anything else that you would like to add before we get into some of the nitty gritty? Because I know that you've mentioned like off camera that you have all the notes and all the
Well,
things that you want to discuss. But before we move on to that, like, do you have anything, like any words for some of our viewers that just want to have enough before they go and experience it themselves?
okay, so before you go and experience it, I will say there are like a couple things that I think you should focus on if we're not gonna like get into like the major plot points or anything. The tone, the characters, the political backdrop, and we've already kind of gone over like the mecha coolness. So like the tone, as I said, Gundam Wing takes itself very seriously. So, go with that in mind. It's not always gonna deliver on that, but it does take itself very seriously. The character setup. Wing setup, as you guys know, it has 5 Gundam pilots, 5 Gundams, and they're all. It's basically like a boy band of angsty teen soldiers with their own distinct look, and somehow, like they got the brooder, like the brooding lone wolf, the cheery, cheerful trickster guy, the quiet circus guy, the that nobody really knows, a lot of mystery, the kind-hearted guy, and then the hothead like throw handser, you know. So are they deep? Not like much, but they're kids, so keep that in mind when you're watching this. Um, plus everyone in the cast is like a bit unhinged, which like
A
the
bit.
show plays totally and like the show plays totally straight on that one. Like like tongue in cheek perspective, like they like people would typically joke and say it's like filled with sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists, and more. But you know, as a 90s kid, we lapped it up. You guys will probably notice it. Um, another one for the political setup, vague, very vague, intriguing, muddled. You're not really sure who's bad and good if you're really listening to the story. Um, so there's that. And be prepared to have your suspension of disbelief broken. And it's like it's hilariously implausible. But anyway, um, that is that's something. I'm not really gonna go too much into anything. Well, actually, last things for that suspension of disbelief because I just can't not do it. Okay, so there's teenage super soldiers basically.
Yeah.
Like all five of them are 15 years old. So keep that in your mind. All five of these guys are 15 years old, yet they're somehow like the deadliest fighters in the world. They can infiltrate bases, outsmart veteran officers, and like pull off moves like I've never seen an adult do. Like you probably can't do it. Like whoever's listening, you probably can't do it. Even for anime, like the idea of kids single-handedly like defeating, like throwing hands and winning against three grown men, like pushes credibility, but Wing just runs with it. You know, they just run and say, "Look, these guys got hands. Forget realism." The other thing is like they're like basically invincible heroes. Like they survive literally anything. Basically, it's like they're unkillable because it's like they have to have five. You know, so it's like you're gonna see some Mission Impossible level shit stuff, and it's just gonna you're just gonna go with it. Like if you ever just count on your hand how many times you say, "How is this guy not dead?" or take a shot every time you think that, you might be one of them. You might die. You might be the guy to die.
make
um,
sure make sure you have life alert on standby.
yes. Also, overpowered weapons. You know, we all like to see a little bit of fighting. We all like to see a little bit of struggle. Gundam technology is just so advanced, it's basically a cheat code. So, you know, keep that in mind. So it feels like the risk isn't always very high, except for the fact that these are just kind of dumb teenagers. Um, you know, and then very stiff philosophical dialogue. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh my goodness. Well, I appreciate your disclaimer, sir. um, I'll probably put a meme up here just like enter at your own risk now that you've known this is like not with the knowledge that you have, right? Like that sort of thing. But oh my goodness. So with that in mind, let's get into a little bit of the nitty gritty here. And I would say a little bit of like what you had mentioned before, like how the kids like it seems like they survive no matter what happened. I think that has to do a little bit with the influence with G Gundam because G Gundam, and we mentioned about this in the previous episode regarding the anime, where the Gundams before were just were a little bit more realistic and very depressing. And the reason why Gundam was able to come back was because of G Gundam in their super robot sense, where like everybody's okay, nobody dies, that sort of thing. And I feel like Gundam Wing, like it's them trying to slowly tip their way back into. I'm saying this very, very loosely, like the realistic aspect that was Gundam, where like there are stakes, but they were like, you know what? Let's make sure that like everybody survives because that made G Gundam successful. So like we'll do that here, and I feel like that was a bit of a detriment because like you had two characters for sure, like with Troa. Oh, okay. So hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself. So like before I go into it any further, right? So I asked for your hot take regarding the pre-spoilers. So like now that we're in spoiler talk, what would be your hot take regarding regarding Gundam Wing?
Yui is an aura farmer. You can't tell me he's not a person that you should find in Mission Impossible aura farming and solo leveling. Like he isekai'd his way into this, you know? And like the thing is like Yui ain't even his name. It's not even his name.
We don't even know what his real name is. Like he just adopts
Yes,
that.
we do.
Oh wait,
You got it.
was that an Endless Waltz or was that in one of the OVAs? I forget.
I want to say it's one of the OVAs. His
Okay.
name is should I be put am I cool to say it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in spoiler
Okay.
talk. We're in spoiler talk. And
Odin Lau Jr., right?
Odin Lau.
Yui, yeah, Odin Lau Jr. Because you know what, the guy Yui was actually a guy that was kind of, you could imagine him as like somebody that's parading peace, guys. Let's unite here. And they're
Yeah.
like, you know what? No, he gets assassinated. Right.
Hmm.
Gets assassinated. So the weird, like kind of weird thing about how all these characters tie together, like Trace is actually truly related to Hiroyui. It's his
Yeah.
grandson. Like Hiroyui's true grandson, the true Hiroyui, is Trey's Kuchinada. It's like, isn't that wild? And the real Hiroyui, which no one, I'm sure nobody remembered, and if you think you remembered, you are a goddamn liar. But you know, I know that a lot of people, when they look back at it, they're not really sure about the story. And that shows you something about Gundam Wing at least. It's like my hot take is like the just even in the first episode, when you're seeing all these characters, let me go back to my notes and literally tell you what well, okay.
What
It's
was it? Was it?
16 minutes. It's
What,
16
yeah.
minutes, 38 seconds.
Oh my
And
goodness.
all you hear
Timestamp.
is yes, all
Yeah,
you
the
hear is
man
it's
brought
a
the
sudden
receipts.
it's yeah, all you hear is like it's your first time seeing Duo, right? And
Yeah.
it's his cringy little surfer voice is just so jarring
Don't
the
do that
first
to
time you hear it.
Duo. Don't do that to
But it's like,
Duo.
no, I'm not. Listen, man. And then it's
Okay.
like all you hear in every scene he's in is sudden enemy attack. Where? Where are they coming from? We don't know where they're coming from, or I don't know. Literally a quote. And then from that 1638, you'll hear sudden enemy attack. 1640, heavy arms get you at 1640, you realize they're just introducing everybody. 1640, heavy arms. And then you wonder, what the fuck is he talking about? He's like mumbling, or whatever he says just doesn't make sense. Then you quickly shift over, you know, you quickly shift over, and it's like, oh my God, this guy is just, he didn't want to have to kill you. He didn't want to have to fight. And you feel like if you've watched Gundam Unicorn, you're meeting Benager Lynx and the
Yes.
Blue Power Ranger from the 90s as if they had a baby, right? And you're like, oh my God. He's like, I didn't want to have to do this. And he's like, you killed yourselves, you know? Like, I'm like, okay. And then they move on to a character, which I have a real Wu Fei.
Oh, Wu
My,
Fei. Wu Fei.
so let me tell you, Wu Fei is 15. Everyone, before he really uses his Gundam, he's already been married, beat
What?
his wife,
What?
beat his wife.
I don't remember him.
She
No, okay,
Yep,
go
yep,
on.
yep.
Go on. Go on.
Beat it. He was putting hands on his wife at before 15. And then, she fights and like takes a bullet or something for him. And then he's like, you know what? I'm gonna name my Gundam after you. you know? And I'm like, okay, so back to his introduction. I said, confident, even less context. He's the apex of an Asian guy in an anime. And who is interviewing these people? Like why are they saying this stuff? Like it just is like no context to whatever they had to say in
Oh
like their
my
little
goodness.
cockpit. And I'm like, oh,
Dude.
so everybody popped up out of nowhere. No explanation. The enemy's like, everybody's like, it's a surprise attack. Where are they coming from? You see them, just say it on the radio. Like so nobody heard a ship land, right? Nobody heard. I don't care. Okay. I had to look up the lore for Gundanium. It says it messes with your radar. For
Okay, so
let's say
that's the thing, cause like what they normally do in other Gundam franchises, like they'll use Minovsky particles to mess with communications, radar, things like that. And that's something that Minovsky particles are released by Gundam, but they didn't have that in this show. Um, so I guess like in the terms of this show, it's like Gundanium is also acting sort of stealthily because I know we've talked a little bit about this off air, but one thing that they try to beat you over the head with Death Scythe is that it pops up out of nowhere. Even though I mean, yeah, like the color scheme, it's hard to see in space, but you have like other equipment and things like that. But they make it a point to show that like his model in particular is very difficult to track. Um, so but they don't really go like as far as that. They don't really go into like they just mention Gundanium, right? They that it's a thing. You don't know like what all it can do because even though it's supposed to be super strong, like you have um what is it like apparently like the pilots wouldn't know this because we see Hero trying to blow up his Gundam. How many times did he try to blow his Gundam up? It was like at least like 5 different times, and he failed
He
every
is
single one.
literally
Yeah,
a Mission Impossible character.
and like
He's like
yeah.
he's it's like a 15-year-old. He's like, and he took the mission that he chose to accept. And it's just like he keeps this bomb on him anytime, like ugh.
But I guess there's just there's too many threads. There's too many threads to pull at because you start pulling on one and go to another. So like for me, I guess just going back like because I don't even think it's going to be a hot take anymore. It was just like Troa. I would say my hot take is like they only ever really needed Troa for
Yeah.
any of this,
Yeah.
and like Wu Fei, he's unnecessary.
Well, here's
um,
the thing.
yeah.
I would have agreed with you, but like
Mm.
all of these pilots play a part, that they're trying to tell you that they really just don't communicate well. Like in the first episode, Wu Fei, I want to say the first episode, Wu Fei is buying like a he's at some point buying a lot of ammunition,
Oh
right?
yeah, oh
From
yeah.
these grown ass adults. And so like I'm like,
And they're
okay, so they're
like, yeah, yeah. So long as the check clears, it's like I don't gotta question nobody.
see,
It's
that's
like
what I'm
money
saying.
is money.
That's the thing. That's the one. No, like this, like at 13 minutes, 48 seconds, you literally hear someone say the exact words of, "You're handing explosives to a little kid." And it's
Mm,
like, paid in full. Like he paid in full, so we
yeah.
have no questions. I was like, listen, if you heard that, like if you heard that as a plot in a script, it's like, all right, I'm watching Spy Kids. You know,
Pretty much.
like you're not thinking you watching something where like Gru sent his kids to go pick up his like bombs or something. You're not watching like a serious like mech battle with like
Oh
real
yeah,
stakes.
no.
Nah, because like you're not even trying to hide like this. Like that's where my suspension of disbelief was broken. It's like what?
But I would
It's like
say like what you had mentioned before, like about the communication. So like again, like this is just like once we start going on one thing, like it leads to another because you mentioned communication, and that was one of the things that was really good and the potential about this series was as like as you mentioned before, is like you got basically the global superpower taking over the colonies in space, and there's 5 colonies. Is it 5 or 4? I think it's 5 because each pilot's from a different colony. And you got these 5 colonies in space, and basically the world government strong arms the colonies and busts up the communication between the colonies. So like none of the other colonies know what's going on with the other colonies because Earth is like, hey, you guys can't talk. That's unfair, right? That sort of thing. And that is really interesting, right? Because we get to see each colony come up with their own solution to the problem that the world imposed on it, which is each colony essentially made its own Gundam, right? And that lack of communication is very clear on Earth. like because only each pilot is talking to their guy in the chair in their respective colonies. But the thing that I take an issue with is when they go back to space and when they go back to the colonies, you don't feel that lack of communication. It feels like they're all talking with each other. I mean, you see Duo see his death size blow up, and the way that they broadcast it, it's as though it's like it's broadcasted throughout all the other colonies, right? So it's very disjointed because it's like it tries to lead you to believe like there's this lack of communication between the colonies, but then you get back to space and there is that communication. But I guess like you can say that that was something that was brought by because when Duo was when Deathside was blown up, was that Oz or was that the Rockefeller Foundation at that time that was trying to take control?
I'm not completely sure. I'd have to go check my notes. I think that the whole thing with Duo, like, well, first thing, all these pilots happen to talk about blowing up their machines and like all these scenes, like it almost feels like every time they blow it up, you just expect them to get an upgrade. So there's no real risk, because they're always going to get back in the fight. Well, you're at least expecting like the main three: Wu Fei, Hiro Yui, and Duo.
No,
Troa,
yeah. I'm sorry. Go on. Yeah.
Troa. I mean, he's and funny enough, Troa and Ketra really do push the narrative as almost as much as Hito does, because like Troa, he pushes the story. He's really the only one we need. He's like this mystery guy. He's like the guy who works as the in the group project, does all the work but doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
Like that's Troa. He literally the first day we see him, he joins a circus with an AI generated resume, befriends a lion, and like
Yeah.
and just says, it's okay. I just know where beasts bear fangs. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. He's like, all right, well you're hired. Like, oh, we'll throw a knife at you. Like it's like, and then then Ketra, right? He like shows some valiant effort, gets like a whole group of mercenaries to like
Bro,
follow him,
he has
and
the
all he's
most
doing,
resources. Yeah, like
yeah,
a
and all he's doing, like you
yeah.
see him on his first day after he kills a man, after he kills a man, after he kills a man, after this dude kills like some people, you see him chilling, getting drinks with pollen and bird shitting on his Gundam, just sitting in nature. Menage your links.
Oh my! And I would say like Ketra was interesting too because I would say you mentioned about like the lack of new types, and I would say like looking back on it, like Ketra was probably the closest thing to new types that this show was ever going to get, because while he's out there in the fight, like he would get like this sort of you would get a reaction shot from him when like something big happened, like say in space or whatever, or he's just like I was, he was a big reason why he pushed everybody back to space. And I would say too, like he was, well, I think about it, like with him, like he was really feely. Like he would let his feelings sort of like dictate what he needed to do. He's like, guys, I think we need to go to space. I'm feeling we need to go to space. And like you said, like he would push the narrative in that regard. And as I said, like just like with certain things, like how they showed, like it was very new typey of him to do that. And like he would notice like when like people are hurt or anything else like that. No, very very much like in Star Wars, where it's just like it's like I no longer feel their presence in the Force or something like that. It's like I feel like something's wrong, or he's like I know that if I do this, everybody else is going to do X, Y, and Z, that sort of thing. But no, like definitely like day one, like Troa is putting in the work. He's got and he's got a good cover story. He's infiltrating different factions, blowing up different no, actually putting in the work. And oh my god, just Wu Fei and Hero. Oh my goodness. Like Hero was like just going back to like your analogy of group projects, right? Whereas like Hero, he's the type of person whereas like he can do the work, but he has like that I no no he has that like I can, but I'm gonna do everything else that I want to aside from doing the job, right? That sort of thing. And Wu Fei is just like I don't know why I'm here. I'm too good for you guys anyways. When I'm sorry, I'm just going down this spiral, just shitting on things because it's just like
It's the characters. It's the
oh, bro.
characters are just like the characters. There's I think the best way I could say it is the it's not really a hot take. It's just general.
Mm-mm.
I feel like it's one-dimensional character archetypes, right? And then you have like inconsistent character motivations. Because I know Ketra, you just never knew. I feel like he was just there just to do things, and then like 1 minute, then Zex. Let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
Zex. He went from like an honorable soldier in the first like couple episodes to like the next space Hitler, and then he's like crying in a helmet. Like
Yes.
there's little build up, like, or payoff for some of these things, and I'm just like,
Dude, so
you
like
know,
when I think it was when he was in the deep sea, like right before he went to space, like when his helmet was splitting, like because at least like with his character, like you said, up to this point, like it was consistent. Like right before he went up to space, it's like he was honorable. He actually stood for something, and then like his helmet split. And he's like, "Oh, I'm no longer gonna be like your friend." Too, I forgot what the name of the dead dude. Um, Trace, yeah, Trace
yeah, Trey's
Cushionada.
Cuccinata,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because like Zex and Trace, like they were thick as thieves, but then like when his helmet broke the first time, Zex is like, okay, deuces. And with the way that they had because like they at least like how they established that relationship, like I was expecting to get something, some sort of background on it's like, okay, it's like so they had this unspoken agreement and I was expecting to like get that scene to explain is like why he sort of turned coat when his helmet broke, and I never got that, and I was mad because like you said, it's like his change. It feels like it comes out of nowhere, but like they set it up to where it's like, oh no, there was a point to this, and we never really get it. At least with what's her name? That crazy lady that basically split her personality into two. Um, she was like the lieutenant under Trace, whereas like she wanted to go the nuclear option any chance she got. And then Trace is like, no, fam, you need to chill out. You know what you need to do? You need to go to space. I need my space. You go to space. And she's like, space? Okay, I'll go to space. And then he's like, yeah, you'll understand what it means to be an Oz person out there, right? And then like that's when she sort of like this she split her personality where it's just like she to put on the front that was needed to gain the sympathy to for Oz to get all the backing of all the different colonies. She needed to be a different person that promoted peace. But then when she was on the battlefield, she needed to do like this 180 to make the decisions that she felt needed to be done. And at least like with that, it felt like with her character. I guess like would you say that like it was more acceptable that that happened versus with what happened with Zex?
which character?
The brown haired lady with the glasses. That was
Okay,
yeah. That's who I'm
yeah,
talking about.
my boy said the brown hair lady with the glasses.
I don't know her name. I was that whole time I was low key hoping that you would come in with the name because you were coming in with the name with all your notes all the other
Well,
times.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure which one you're talking about, actually, to be honest with you. Which character are you talking about?
the one she worked underneath Zex. She had the glasses.
Oh, I want to say she
Yeah.
was also a Peacecroft. Or
No no
she
no
I
no
think
no.
she was either a Peacecroft. She was one of the higher families, wasn't she?
She was like a lieutenant.
Yeah, so there was Zex, who was a Peacecraft. So never mind. Yeah, she wasn't a
Hmm.
Peacecraft. So Zex was a Peacecraft. Let's see. Go through my notes. What episode was she on, or where did
Hold
she
up,
pop in? Was
hold up. Let me bring up the character list. All those notes.
she- I don't know. The brown hair lady. I'm like, who does she work for? All
She worked for Zex, and
right,
he
because
sent
I
her
knew
to
there was a black haired lady. You know.
the one that was with no, you're not talking about the one that knew Miliardo, right? They were like childhood friends.
He was Milliardo. Like Zex is Milliardo Peacecraft.
Oh, my apologies. I'm my bad. I'm saying the wrong name. The
Hmm.
dude that the dude that Zex had worked for. The guy who was in
Trey's
charge.
Fortunata.
Yeah, Trace. Okay. So the lieutenant that I'm talking about was the lieutenant to Trey's. Hold on. Let's see. Lady Une.
Oh, okay.
Her.
Yeah. Okay, that's when was that when he was with the no, that's not when he was with the White Fang. That was before that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I was all over the place on that one. I was like, what do you
My
mean?
bad, my
He
bad,
was
my
around
bad.
girls
Okay.
his whole he was a player, boy.
But
He was
like
a player.
the point that I was trying to make, right? Because like with Lady Une, like her person her personality changes drastically. But
Oh yeah.
it seems like a it seems like it's more of a logical progression than Zex's start change was.
Right.
That was what I was saying. Do you think
Gotcha.
that those changes are comparable? Am I right? Am
I
I
think
wrong?
I think you're pretty much on the I think you're pretty much on the right path. But I mean, like this story and its like sudden plot twists and the subplots that like didn't really seem conjoined. Like it was just kind of all over the place, and then you had like too many factions. Like this show was trying to juggle like the Alliance, Oz, Romefeller, White
Yeah.
Fang, and that's like without giving like us all time to like ingest what they all mean or like really differentiating them to understand who's good, who's bad, who has like this thought process as much as they do in like other Gundam series. Like in Iron Blood Orphans, you knew who were the bad side, you knew who was the good side. In Unicorn Gundam, you like got to see both sides and that it wasn't just good and bad.
Yeah.
In Wing, you just were unsure. You just were seeing fights, and that's what you were here for.
I think they might have been a little bit too over ambitious and was trying to do what they did with Unicorn, where because as you mentioned, like you have Oz, and then it seems like Oz ends up becoming Romefeller, and then there's another superpower that pops up out of nowhere. Just showing that the lines of war and like who's the good guy versus who's the bad guy, like that changes all the time. And that in itself is very, very interesting, but it was it wasn't done very well, or like it could have been done better, because essentially I think they made a point of it in the show as well, where it's just like you're up in space and they are basically comparing Romefeller to how Oz was earlier in the show. And it's like, okay, like that's kind of an interesting parallel that they're trying to take, right? It's a very, very interesting. And I just, it could have been a lot better. And I'm just looking here at some of these character lists too, because, oh my goodness, like with Trace, like I feel like with him, they fumbled him so hard because like he seems like the sit back and plot and scheme type guy where he's like setting things up, and that's what he was doing. Like he was, at least like they try to make it seem like he planned this whole thing, where it's just like, even though Oz has like this big like hold out there in space, he basically he pulled a Trump where he like very much like with what Trump did with TikTok is like he made a problem himself and then he came back as like, hey, so you have this problem and I can fix it for you. And it's like you're just fixing the problem that you started and you're trying to come out at the end like you're the hero. And that's essentially what Trey's was doing with the politics sort of thing. It's like, hey, I hear you got this problem in space. Don't worry, I'll be here to help you out. Like, but he was the one that caused the problem to begin with, and it was interesting in that regard. But it could have been so much better. And oh my god, ah,
I think to sum
yeah,
it up,
hmm,
Gundam, it's not that Gundam Wing was bad. It's that it had so much potential to be good,
it did
uh,
so much,
that when
so
you
much.
go and look back and it doesn't deliver on that, then, you end up in this situation, like like it was an overload of melodrama, like underwhelming delivery, jarring shifts between like high school drama, Gundam fighting, political thriller, you know? And like a lot of cringe quotes from Relina.
Oh
Um,
my goodness, yes.
a load of unintended comedic scenes because they were meant to be like very serious.
Yeah, like
Like
you said, like they took themselves too seriously that it becomes comical. It's just like, okay, yeah, sure.
like literally.
Hmm.
Like and then and then it's like another like I had to come back to this. Hiro Yui's aura farming was absurd. Like the show occasionally hints that Hiro is like the perfect soldier or whatever. It's like he's even better than Captain America. It's like that he's just the guy.
Oh my goodness.
MI6 needed to pick him up years ago. It's
Yes.
like because it's like you spend that much time in the show where they're hinting at that, and then you just have these unstoppable like aura farming moments of badassery and like kind of shallow. Like he just stands there and like scowls and survives like literally everything from like near death, like Gundam fights to jumping out of an exploding building. Like he's harvesting his own plot armor. It's never explained, and it's hard to even take serious. Like in the first episode, you see Hiro. It's like okay, he's doing his thing. He has his Gundam. Everybody finds out it's a Gundam. He's a Gundam pilot, and he just literally like the first time you see him turn into a Gundam, you're like, wow, Gundam, and they're just shooting him in the back, and like he's not even caring, and he literally, if you see him, it's like he's thinking like these are flies.
Hmm.
And then he turns around and like after taking all these shots to the back and says, I'm gonna take one shot, eradicates two dudes, and like at 9 minutes 50 seconds, look at that laugh. 9 minutes 50 seconds.
Oh,
Look at
bro,
the
yeah,
laugh.
like he
The
laughs
first
like a
episode,
serial
9 minutes.
killer. Yeah,
Yeah, the first
he's like,
episode,
ha ha
nine
ha, I
minutes,
killed
50
these
seconds
guys.
in.
I was like, what? Like,
Now
am I supposed
let's be
to? Is
clear.
this supposed to be cool? What? What
Let's
is
be
this?
clear.
Yeah,
This is a 15-year-old with a weapon of mass destruction who's taking zero damage to the back.
yeah.
He turns around with essentially a shotgun to like a dog and says, uh-huh, and just pulls the trigger. It's like, and then he laughs maniacally, just aura farming these dudes. They're like, yeah, we're getting them. And it's like, that's not a pilot jet, that's a Gundam. And it's like, hit him in the back, you see a little smoke, and it's like, you see no scratches on the armor. Like, you
Yes.
rarely do see scratches on the armor in the show. And like, so they had to send out the big guns, who takes a typical weak suit and like Zex on some weird shit, like gets the Gundams into some grappling move and like jumps out. And he's like, yeah, he can't get out of that. I done used that big mecha kung fu, done karate chopped him. And he's like, and then they just that's it. This dude who just casually aura farmed all these other people gets hugged, and that's it.
Pretty
You know?
much.
It's like, okay. Then you like then from there, just such a quick jump to Relina, you know, giving her dad sudden death flags.
Oh
And
my
let's
goodness.
not even
Oh,
talk about the name General Septum, you know?
I
You
feel, I,
know?
I feel, I feel like that was an inside joke.
I'm just yeah, it
They're
had to
like, how many
be.
of these kids are gonna get this?
Yeah, it had to be, and it's like and then, like, just the first episode shows you everything that could go wrong with Gundam Wing, like, Hiro Yui when when Relena sees him and he's like, "Ah, shit, you saw my face." He doesn't kill her. He goes GTA style into an ambulance takeover, like, kicking and punching, like, almost hilariously, 3 guys
Mhm.
off of, like, a stairway from the beach, and then just hops in the ambulance and speeds off. And then Relena just sitting there introduces herself to nothing, you know, like that's gonna
Yes.
help, and it just sits there, and I'm like, "This is a waste of time to tell me if this is like, this is trying to drive home it's important." When I was a kid, I was
Yeah.
like, "Wow, she really wanted to meet this man," you know? And then nothing. And it's the show really falls victim to, like, a lot of tropes because like,
Mhm.
immediately after that you're watching the scene where it's back to Relena after like Heavy Arms and everybody was introduced as their surprise attack. And it's like just a quick shift. And it's like, okay, I just saw things blowing up and now I'm in a school drama, the typical lecture hall, have a new student. And I was writing it, I was gonna say it feels like they're gonna introduce Hito. I didn't even get past feels dot dot dot. Beat me to the new student trope, all the way to the seating.
Mhm.
Sat right next to her, ignores her hello, another 21 minutes, ignores her hello, casual aura farming. Follow that, 21 minutes, 16 seconds. It tears up her invitation and like wipes her tear and says, "I'll kill you." Like, I can't help but laugh at that now. Like, and she's over here like, "What kind of person is he?" Bitch, he said he'd kill you. And he ripped up your birthday invitation in front of your friends. He's aura farming you, like that. Come
Bro,
on, man.
and the thing is, like, oh, dude, would make um she would make Amy Rose run for her money too, because the way that she was following Hero throughout the whole show, like, he would change schools because his mission demanded it. She would transfer schools too. Just following him is like, bro, he doesn't want. Like, what are you doing? What is this?
See, I'm just gonna tell you, this
Yeah.
is like that 90s thing where it's like the girl goes for the bad boy because like in episode 2, right? We start
Mhm.
out and like Hiro Yui is fencing against some simp,
Some
right?
random guy. Yeah.
No, no, he is a
Yeah,
simp.
yeah, he's a
Like
simp.
this,
Yeah.
like, he got mad. He got mad. He's like, "You tore up this girl's invitation. I can't wait to show you a thing or two." He like beats him fencing, breaks his sword, and stabs his helmet like through the glass and just walks off. It's like, and then like these girls are like, "He looks really weak, but he's strong." It's like trying to deliver the context of he trains, like without actually showing it to us. And then like
I would say, like, that was one thing too, because, like, at least, like, with some of the designs, I don't know, I guess, like, in terms of letting you know that they're kids, um again, like, it could be me trying to give them more credit because these kids, they're from the space colonies, so they look they look they all have a very thin and slender build. um a lot of them do have the, what's the phrase, um there's a word for it where it's like they have both male and female features, like David Bowie, that woman who
Aphrodite
was,
kind of thing.
no, like Aphrodite, it's a word, but it's
No, I said hermaphrodite, but yeah, not that one.
no, it starts with an A, I believe, but like
I know what you're talking about. Not
androgynous. Yeah.
yeah. I was like,
Yeah,
not ambient.
where like
Shit.
they have like that androgynous build, right? Where you
Hmm.
look at them and it's like they could be one or the other. And that really hit home for me when I would watch the outro sometimes, because like Relena, like with some of her outfits, like she really had those androgynous traits, where it's like she would, I think it was like a pair of overalls or something else like that, where it's like
It looked like Trey's. It
yeah,
looked like a young Trey's Coutronata.
yeah. And
Yep.
I mean, I guess like that, they could have been trying to do that, trying to show that they were related earlier on. But from what I got from the outro, was like I realized how much of a brat that she was.
Yeah, she
Like,
was a brat. Like, what kind of entitled woman is
oh,
gonna run onto a military base to stop a dude? Like,
oh,
that is
dude,
not her
yeah.
problem. It's not her crime. Hito, stop it. Don't do it. Who are you gonna kill? And it's like, bitch, go home. Like, that's the only time in the
Killing
show
people's
that he,
not nice.
like, that's the only time in the show he almost killed her and she got what she, it was about to be like, hey, it's like
You
wrong
asked for
place, wrong
this.
time. He's like, wrong place. He said, Relina. And she's like, he's like, I didn't want to have to get rid of you. Like, like if Duo wasn't there, it would have been a murder. It would have been a murder. If Duo wasn't there, it would have been a murder. And so I'm like
Yeah.
looking at it, right? Like the second episode,
Hmm.
we're shown that like Zex knows how to manipulate people because he's manipulating the commander of like the submarine. And
Yeah.
like Hito is given like context of like, oh, he can ride a horse real good. That's why nobody cares that he's not here and hacking on a computer. Aura farming. On top of the, fencer, he just whooped his ass, like simp, boom, 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 stab. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, two aura farming incidents. It's like, why is everybody stunting this man? I was asking myself, why is everybody stunting this man? And then all of a sudden, he's randomly on a computer at school accessing top secret material from the dark web. I'm guessing he found
Yeah.
bombs, and it's like, I thought to myself, the fuck kind of VPN they got? And it's like, I was like, the fuck kind of VPN they got? I was
Yes.
like, it's like, and if you want one like the same, invest in NordVPN, your VPN to get you to TS clearance. You know what I mean? But I was like, so
just,
he's
just,
looking
just,
through
just
this
a little
stuff.
plug, just a little Nord plug right there. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so he's looking through all this shit, and he says, this will destroy it for sure. So somehow he hacked into the government, found some submarine missiles close by, and he
Yeah.
knows that these amount of, I guess he didn't read the documentation, but he says these missiles will destroy my Gundam. Really, his doctor wanted to make sure that it wouldn't, so he just told him that because obviously they didn't destroy it or Death
Mhm.
Side. So, you know, whatever. So he's a guy that thinks he's going to destroy a Gundam, hacking on a school computer. So he hacks and then casual aura farms to pay his all his tuition, school, room, board, paid. Like he just handling it,
Yeah, just
just
low key
handling the shit.
flexing. Yeah, it's like I'm here, might as well, right?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
And like the next
Yeah.
scene, that girl is sad that he tore the thing up, and all I said in my notes was "Hello, sad girl," And then get to the
Hello,
next piece.
darkness, my old friend.
Yeah, skip to the next piece. It's like, okay, we see this sad girl. We see this guy, acting like he's a spy kid. And the next thing you know, he's under a truck like a fucking Spriggan agent on
Yes.
MI6 and rolls from a speeding car on his back. No scratch. Still, we know nothing about this guy, but I know he got human skin because, like, I've never slid on
Oh,
some shit
bro,
like that.
bro, 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 bro.
You jumped out of a moving vehicle. It didn't even stop. It wasn't at a stop sign, a red light.
Talking about a little bit about
Mm.
the realistic, right? So I mentioned earlier, like how they were all from the colonies, right? So again, like trying to give a little bit more grace to the show. I don't think they were thinking about this, but you could have said it's like, oh, because they were slender, because they had that small build, is because the colonies they don't have the best resources, right? But you're also in space. You have fake gravity, right? How is it that they're able to do all this shit in real gravity and overpower people who grew up on Earth with real gravity when they got space bones and space muscles?
I don't know. And like this girl gets into a car and tells her driver to go to the military base, and she starts talking out loud about Hiro Yui with his name, government name, mind you, and says why he would want to kill her. Her driver, an adult, responds and says, "Are you reading a suspense novel?" I'm like, there's no way the
Bro.
author's not playing us, guys. You know?
Oh.
There's no way. Go back. Go back. Go back and watch it. He'll be
Adults are
like,
not that aloof. Oh my goodness.
he said, "Are you reading?" He said, "Are you reading a suspense novel?"
Oh my goodness.
Talking about a suspense drawing. You know?
Ah, bruh. I would
Mm,
say so like because like we spent a lot in the earlier episodes and we mentioned, well, you had mentioned that one thing was like about the show is like it could have been so much better. Because like it had a lot of potential. For me, my biggest thing was when Hero ended up killing I think it was Relina's dad. Yeah, when he ends up killing Relina's dad by accident because the mission details that were given to him was false fed information. And then how he realized that who the true target was versus what he thought the target was. He really like that affected him in a good way, and a good way in terms of like character development. And then later on in the show, we see Quattro experiencing something very similar when he's piloting the Zero system, right? Because it gives you different um, timelines and possibilities and things like that. And Quattro ends up destroying a colony when he's not himself, but because of what the Zero suit does. And I am just so mad because they could have given us a great moment between those two characters because we have Hero seeing Quattro literally live out something that he lived out earlier in the show that he had overcome on him by himself. And knowing how touchy feely Quattro is, he's going to need some hand holding to get through this. And they don't give that to us. That was for me. That was that moment for me. Like it's like I felt I felt used and abused that they didn't give me a good payoff there. Was there a same or similar moment for you when you were watching this where you were saying is like this is a gem that was wasted that they could have that could have made this show that much better?
I would say it would have to be the handling of the original time, like the inclusion and handling of the original timeline for Gundam, and just the interactions between Relina and Hiro. I think Hiro, for having such a for like the for everyone trying to make us focus on the relationship between the two of them, there was
Yeah.
never any true payoff in their relationship as we would have wanted it.
Oh yeah, no, like he
And
like at the
I
end,
hated
like
that.
he's like what was he in Shibuya or something like that? Like she's off
All I'm saying,
doing political stuff and he's like out there wandering the world like kung fu or something.
yeah, see, that's the thing. It's like they're trying to drive us to like make them think that there's like a love interest, but
Yeah.
nothing ever happened. I was like, why would you make me waste my time? If you've taken so
Yes.
much time to focus on this, it's like, do something with it. Like, you give me a payoff that makes sense, but they didn't, and that kind of hurt. That hurt a little bit, and I feel like Epion was another one that I felt like it could have been better, and it almost felt like a copy paste of like some old enemy Gundams. You remember the which is the Gundam with the guy with the blazing fist of love? You know,
Oh, yeah, no, that
which
was definitely a discount Master Asia. Or
yes,
yeah,
exactly.
a
And
discount.
I'm
I
like,
think it
come
was
on,
Dark.
man.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
You could have done so much more with that, but instead, you know,
I would say
eh,
too, like one thing that was weird for the design was that he had a beam sword, but the beam sword had to be connected to the Gundam, like the Gundam had a little backpack.
no,
And we've seen beam weapons that didn't need to be connected. So that was one design choice that really stuck out to me is like, why is that there? Like that sort of thing, right? It did it took away from the design more than anything. And um I'm sorry. I didn't mean to derail your thoughts regarding Epion.
no, no, no. It's
Yeah.
okay. That's all I want to say was Epion was wasted. a wasted gem that could have been so much better because Gundam is known for the introduction in the later part of the seasons of these like cool enemy Gundams usually or
Yeah.
enemy mobile suits. And I feel like it could have been better.
Oh no, for sure. And I would say one thing too that like the later season does, as far as like the different mobile suits, because you mentioned before that when they try to destroy or get rid of some of Gundams or on, it doesn't feel like there's any consequence to it for the most part, because it's like, oh, they're just going to get an upgrade. So you had mentioned Troa. Um, Troa earlier, like his heavy arms, I forget. I think it's just like left at the bottom of the ocean or something. Something happens with heavy arms where you're under the impression that he's not going to get a unit back, right? But he makes do, which is why I say like he's probably the most capable because he goes into space, he hijacks a mobile suit, he gets into Oz, and he ends up piloting one of their experimental stuff. I think it's like the Mercurius, and I forget what the name of the other one was, but it was the red and the blue suits, right? Where it's like,
Right.
okay, these are new mobile suits. Like you said, it's like they're developing new suits because of their encounter with the Gundams, right? So it's like this is sort of like that new wave there, and they made it work very well with that. Um, I'm just trying to think because like that was really good on how they did that. Um, it's just like how they handled. That was another thing. I think I might have mentioned it before. I might be just repeating myself because like when Troa ended up uh, when his suit exploded. Oh, and we see that he ended up surviving too. But I think that his death would have been more impactful and would have driven the story more, right? And it would have caused Hero to stop sitting on his thumbs and to actually be a team player once. But even then, like they were all still just like doing their thing, even though they thought that he was dead. So I guess like it didn't really do anything. Like, oh, cool, you're still around. All right, I'm still gonna do my own thing.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And then I guess just touching back on like the romance stuff, like I feel like they know how to do romance because we see Lucrezia knowing how she has like feeling for Zakes, and it's like that sort of want to but you can't. And then you have Duo with his little girlfriend Hilde, where their love story was a whole lot better than Relena and Hero. And you can
Yeah.
argue that their their story is not really a love story. It's an actual relationship, which is crazy how that happened. Um, but bro, what was talking about relationships? Just going back to a thread that we had mentioned earlier. What was up with Wu Fei and his relationships? Like it's because earlier on, like he trashes. I think yeah, he was who was it that he was fighting? No, he was fighting against Lady Une, and he was downplaying her because of her sex. And then he gets his butt handed to him later on by a girl, and he doesn't even acknowledge it. It's just inconsistent and very annoying. But I guess
Wu Fei was
yeah,
an edge lord of his time. That's what I'll say. He was an edge lord of
yeah.
his time back when people used to say like, different things that they don't say now for fun.
Oh my, yeah. Like basically just says things for the shock factor and to make it seem like it's deep or it's coming from somewhere, but it's not. He was just trying to
No, it's like
yeah,
how people used to just like, like now, if someone were to say gay,
yeah.
now it's different than what it was then, right? So he
Okay, yeah.
seems like someone like that. Like anything he says now would be not good. So he is an edge lord of that time of our society.
I guess, but I would say like back then though, like even if they said those things or like they took that stance, right? So like they would either be like strong enough to back it up, or if somebody shows that, hey, this girl beat me, maybe my perspective on women should change, right? Like they would have like that level of introspection. But Wufe, he's, from what you had mentioned before, he's so one note. It's just ugh, just
Yeah. He's something.
ugh. But oh my goodness, was there? So from your mountains of notes, was there anything else that you wanted to address?
All right. So I'll say my
Yes.
personal favorite growing up was like when it comes to Gundam design, and even
Mhm.
like my character was Hiro Yui, but Gundam design was always going to be the Death Scythe, right?
Oh
Um,
yes, without a doubt.
he was the joker of the group, chatty, cocky pilot who like called himself the god of death, like despite being the friendliest terrorist you'll ever meet. Um, Duo actually like
Yes.
he got like a massive dramatic arc. Like he like or he doesn't get an actual like a dramatic arc like everybody else. He's like mostly consistently like the same guy, and
Yeah.
he's actually down on his luck. Like he's the only person that survived a lot of people dying. He was the only person of a group, the Maxwell group of kids that survived. That's why he took on the last name Maxwell. So he's like a kind of tragic character, even to be like the funny and energetic character that he is, and he provides like a much needed levity in a show that tries to take itself way too seriously. But he still, and he, even pals around with Hiro, who frankly, doesn't treat Duo that well, like a bro.
Oh yeah.
But Duo sticks with him like a real bro does. The
Oh
most
my
baffling
goodness.
thing though,
No, no, because like you said, like Hero is such a scumbag dog. Because like Duo was like, hey, I'll get your suit out of the ocean. We'll help fix it up. He's like, oh, I don't like anybody touching my suit. And next thing you know, like he leaves with his suit from by taking parts from Duo's suit. Is like, whoa, like dick much, right?
well, the irony being in the beginning of
Hmm.
Gundam, like the first episode or second episode, he was getting the Wing Gundam to use it as parts for his suit. When it was, when it had just got hugged to death.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
and the weird thing about Duo though, like halfway through the story, he kind of like disappears in jail. Like he's just off camera while like a lot of this heavy stuff going on in the plot, he's just off camera. And then he like busts out of jail, and he blowing up Oz base and like, a lot of like really cool one-liners like Peter Parker would have given.
Hmm.
And his charm to me is that like he was a regular-ish dude amongst like these very like polarized character personalities. Like you have one really soft guy, one guy that like beats women and needs to be on top,
Yeah.
and you got Hiro Yui who's like they want him to be all of these like things that a soldier should be, but just falls flat. But Duo just literally makes jokes. He's like as relatable as Peter Parker. He even tries to quit like the whole war thing at one point, which would have been a smart move, but
Hmm.
inevitably he got dragged back in because he's part of the plot and the plot demands it.
Yep.
But there's not a lot of growth for Duo. Like I noticed that like he stayed kind of consistently the same around the entire show. But he did have a cool Gundam, and that did make me like him. And I just want to put that out there. Sometimes you just need a dude with a scythe and a braid, Enjoy the
Yes.
ride.
Oh my goodness, no, exactly. Like I did appreciate Duo, and I think like because I had tried to watch the show once before, and I gravitated to Duo because he was the one that had the Death Scythe. For me, like Death Scythe just had the coolest design, and it, like I said, it was just very interesting having like that sort of personality there. And looking back on it, I was kind of hoping for, I don't know. I guess like I was hoping for a little bit too much, because I was thinking that like once we see like the, because each Gundam is unique and different just as much as the pilots are. And so I thought that like maybe you're gonna see like why Duo has the Death Scythe, right? Because Death Scythe is supposed to be like stealthy and in and out, that sort of thing. But as you mentioned, like he's probably like one of the he's not braggadocious, but he's probably like the most extroverted of the group. Like he's going to be in your face and not obnoxious, but he's going to let you know that he's present, right? So giving that type of suit to that type of guy is not necessarily the best thing. Um Heavy arms is just like spraying and praying, so like you think that like the person for that suit would sort of just be like balls to the wall, that sort of personality, but it's Troas, which is like probably like one of the most quiet of the group. Um, Sandrock, you have to be very close and personal to kill somebody with it because of the scimitars that he has. But it's the person who owns it is the most heartfelt of the group, so it's just like he has to be up and in your face to kill you. So it's very very interesting that the pilots and their personalities don't necessarily match up with the Gundam. Um, but again, like it's this show. They're like how they did it. It's uh definitely was very impactful. Because people have nothing but nostalgia for it. Like it, but like you said, it was a right place, right time, hitting the right audience, and everything for it. Oh my goodness. Trying to think if there was anything else. I was thinking about maybe wanting to talk about like Dorothy Catalina, but I feel like it's more work trying to bring her into the fray rather than trying to wind things down. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you're 100% right. I mean, there's so much like there's so much meat and potatoes, but you still don't have a soup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's where Gundam Wing went, and it could have been the shining symbol of what Gundam and anime was in the 90s, but instead, it's a shining example of what could have been and our childhood imagination filling the empty gaps in the story.
That is very, very astute. Very concise. I definitely agree with you that on that point. So, with that being said, would you suggest that? So, final verdict. We'll go ahead and we'll go back to uh, the regular radio show room here, just to give our final thoughts on the series as a whole. Would you suggest this for anybody to rewatch, or do you think that it needs to be stay that this needs to stay buried in the past and does not have any in modern day?
Well, my conclusion that in revisiting Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, like it's been a joyride of nostalgia, laughter, and some genuine like I admired that, right?
Yeah.
And also it made you think like at the time that silent, circus snipers were cool. Um, but getting away from Troa, yes, I can see the plot holes. You could give Gundam like you could drive a Gundam through some of these plot holes. And it shows the overzealous kind of but yet earnest moments like that an artist gave. But when it comes to does it live up to the memory and what I tell someone else to watch it, I did find myself grinning like at some still amazing mobile suit fights. So if you do want to watch some mobile suit fights, I'd send you to a different series. But if you're really into, the 90s and you want to see a product of its time, a melodrama of mechs, teenagers, and men wishing they could be a little bit deeper than they were, it would be a good show to watch. It's a beautiful mess. I'll always appreciate it, and it could have been much better. If you have a 10-year-old, it'll be just what you thought it was. So I would bring it to them. It would be good for a kid audience, but it's not like it's something new. So, would I suggest someone watching it? There are a lot of shows on top, so I would put it. I'd leave it where it was, a shining example of what could have been.
Well, that's very good. You mentioned that there was a couple scenes that um brought that smile to your face. Before we close things, like what was one big scene that did that for you?
One of the big scenes that did it for me was there were a lot of scenes. I would say all of
Hmm.
the casual aura farming, and then the end of Endless Waltz when Hiro Yui had the Buster weapon, which actually in the original translation was the bastard rifle. Um,
Ooh, so
yeah,
edgy.
right? Right, as edgy as you can get. So edgy to the point that they had to have real bat wings and real feathers attached to these mechanical Gundams for the OVA movie Endless Waltz. Just to sell another
Oh yeah,
cooler design,
just the low
make it
key.
unforgettable, right?
Yes.
Uh, so beyond the metal feathers left in space that'll float forever, and the shell casings that Heavy Arms left, probably hitting as many people as a stormtrooper, I feel like I can give this one a solid uh, 5.2 when it comes to my recommendation here. When it current day,
5.2 out of what? Like a 10?
5 point. Yeah, I would give it 5.2 out of 10 when it comes to if I would recommend it to somebody else.
Oh, okay. Would you what would you say is like a good I guess just as a barometer where it's just like a surefire you should watch this recommendation. Would you say that that would be like a 7 or an 8 on your scale, or is that more of a
Uh, you should watch this would be a 7.5, probably. Yeah, I'd
okay,
say 7. I'd say
okay,
7.
7.
Free run would be a 10.
10 out of 10 would recommend. You heard
Yes,
it here,
and that's
folks.
not that's not just recency bias. I think it is written very well, even if it didn't win Anime of the Year, which has, a lot of recency bias and no board to kind of really keep us from making it a popularity contest. I think that shows like that,
Ooh, shots fired.
hey, shows like that, yeah, true, true. But shows like that, like, I would still say, "Hey, like, Solo Leveling did so much for the culture." Like, it did have an impact on the culture, but I think
Mhm.
that recency bias and what's popular in conversation are different than the, best of a year or the representation of a year. So I think that if we had a board, I'm just throwing that out there. I wish we had a Crunchyroll anime board, or council versus just like what we vote on because
Yeah.
it can be kind of it kind of can contradict it kind of can become a popularity contest. So because how do you measure some of these other things like the true impact on anime as a whole? I think story writing was amazing for free rent, and it was
Hmm.
compared to season 2 of Solo Leveling, not season 1 or Solo Leveling as a whole. I think that that is kind of tough to put on an audience.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just me. Don't ask me for my opinion.
I just watch anime. I don't work here.
Right?
Well, I appreciate your opinion. That's why we had you back on the show so that we can get your thoughts, your comments, and what's your like I said, just wanted to have your like your outlook and your perspective. And it was thank you about bringing in the more recent stuff so that we have a bit of a barometer to or a standard to hold your ranking against. So now we know like again just recap like Furin is instant you have to watch it whereas uh and where
Vinland
that
Saga as
is
well.
yeah
Can't forget
Vin-
Vinland Saga.
oh Vinland Saga's up there too okay um to get your perspective in regards to those animes and this anime and where it falls on the list in terms of priority. And I would say like I would agree with you where this anime, even though it's big in the hearts and minds of a lot of our peers, I do believe like it is something that should stay in its time. Granted, the suit designs were very, very cool, and we don't see those going away anytime soon. I feel like there are going to be toys made and remade of that series of mecha. And I would say, like, if this would to come back, like, they would have to definitely overhaul a lot of the writing. And I feel like it would be done, but with the direction that the Gundam franchise is going, it seems like they're more or less moving forward and not necessarily looking backward. So I am confident that the Gundam series that we're going to get from now moving forward, especially with the way that GQs, the new Gundam series that's happening. There's a little of suspect scenes that happen there where it's like, okay, why is this character acting this way? But so far the setup is going pretty solid, doing pretty good things. So again, like that's a rebury from the both of us regarding this beloved franchise, Gundam Wing. It's good, but it's no Frieren, right? So again, Jarrod, appreciate your time. Thank you again for hopping on. We really enjoyed having you back. Are there any projects or things that you would like to promote before we sign off?
I would say if you haven't already, shout out to you, you know? I was gonna say shout out to the game, but, you know, shout out to you, man. Doing your thing.
I
No, not
appreciate
really,
it.
no, nothing else, nothing to call out. Just know, you know, we were both avid fan, or I don't know about you, but I was an avid fan, and I'm still an avid fan of Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, for even if it's not for what it was, for what it could have been, and for the place it will always hold in my anime heart. Just want you guys to know, you know, you can still love the show. I would just say don't go back and watch it.
Leave it in your memories as it was. Don't
Remember
soil
it
the
as it
memories.
was.
Remember it
Yes.
as it was. That'll be our sign off. Until next time, guys, remember it as it was.